everyone, and welcome to the September meeting of the Rancho Murieta Board of Directors. Could we start with a roll call, please? Here.
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 Thank you, Darlene. First up on the agenda are public comments. The public shall have the opportunity to directly address the board on any items of interest. Public comments on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board at this time, please state your name and lot number and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken. Each item of business will be introduced by the president. Public comment for that item will be opened. The public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. Public comment for that item will then be closed, and no additional public comment will be allowed. At that time, the board will discuss the item and then take action. Does anyone wish to address the board at this time? Seeing no one, we will move on to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of the items unless the director requests a specific item be removed. The items on the consent calendar are delinquent accounts receivable aging report, check register, escrow's closed list, and unaudited financial statements, all for August 2016. Does any director wish an item be removed for comment? May I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next is the approval of minutes for the meeting of August 16th, 2016. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any changes, deletions, comments? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
Are you going to do that most of the night?
Yep.
And next up is the president's report. Prior to the meeting this evening, the board met in executive session. In that executive session, we approved minutes, legal invoices, and reviewed some legal issues. The board also reviewed some contracts that will be voted on in open session. The board also approved collection actions against parcel number 128-024-027-000. That concludes the president's report. Next up is the general manager's report.
The first item is renewal of insurance policies. Staff's recommendation is to ratify the renewal of the general liability, property, business auto, employer benefits, inland marine, pollution, and umbrella policies for a premium of $66,278.11, and to ratify the workman's comp policy with employer's preferred insurance company for an estimated premium of $53,743. And just a side note, all policies will renew on September 1st now.
Also move to ratify the policies as indicated.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the insurance policies. Is there any discussion?
Got a discussion?
Could you go to the podium, please?
Mark Pekatich, resident, lot 110. Does this policy include a plan for the pump track, or what's your guys' current plan to try and get that as part of your general liability policy? My understanding is that was part of that discussion.
Currently, it does not include any provision for the pump track. We did have discussion about it, and since we're coming into the winter season, we decided to leave it as it is for now and revisit it in the spring.
So your plan is to keep it closed until the spring, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, at which time you're going to revisit the policy on that?
Well, I think a couple of things, Mark. And if I remember my numbers correctly, to have the pump track was going to be, I'll say, $8,000. And so the discussion was, is it worth $8,000 for the usage?
Indeed.
Staff then went back to, excuse me while I'm looking this up while I'm talking to you. Staff went back and looked for a separate policy that would be for special events, similar to when we set up lights, you know, had a night ride, stuff like that. We did have one policy come back, and it was for $4,682. The only negative to that is it didn't cover the participants. It covered the spectators. We have general liability insurance that covers spectators, not the participants. So that particular policy wouldn't even work. And so upon my direction, asking the president, I asked that staff not look at it anymore. We figure out what we're going to do, whether it falls back to yourself, somebody in the community that has a plan to use the facility for the cost of what the insurance is.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Because my understanding is it breaks down to about 28 cents per month per member. Is that about right to cover an $8,000 policy?
I'd turn to Colleen and ask her, my wizard, I didn't mean to wake you up, my wizard math doesn't
They're getting
necessarily
head
work
bobs,
out.
so, yes, I think that's what it is. So, I just want to make sure that we understand that that's what we're giving up, and that's understandable, and we talked about a metric before that no other park facilities have.
Correct.
You know, in the context of a pump track.
Right.
So I guess what I would say to you guys is it's reassuring to know that you have a plan to revisit it at some point.
Well, no,
Yeah,
no, no,
that-
we're gonna revisit it. What's missing is a plan on how it actually gets used. That's the big missing part.
So I guess when I say plan, it includes all of that from my context.
Yeah, we gotta figure out how to use it, who's gonna use it, when it's gonna be used. I mean, we
Indeed.
had- I forgot what we had, like, three people sign up last year.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
three.
and we should start monitoring like bocce ball courts and flag parks
Well, I
and
mean,
stuff
but
like
they
that
have
if we want to go there.
To use the facility, you have to get a sticker.
Right.
Right. I'm with you. So again, I'm not trying to
We only had
debate
three
this,
last
guys.
year, so that's the only way we can.
Sorry, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to debate it. I guess what I'm asking for is a plan moving ahead. Because then the other thing that goes along with this is that we need to reconsider it underneath the parks matrix itself, right? So if it's going to come off of the parks matrix, that has to be something that has to be through policy discussed at the parks committee too. So we need to go through that exercise as well of modifying the matrix if we're going to put in something different like a dog park. I know, Sam, at one point you wanted that, or some alternative. So I just want us to think through a long-range plan of what you guys want to do with that space, and if we're going to, look at it in terms of a matrix and a metric for start measuring park facilities, we should look at that in total about all of our park facilities, including spray parks and so forth.
The big issue is the cost for the insurance for spray,
Sure.
for pump park alone.
Right.
And you're trying to compare other parks that we don't specifically have to pay $8,000 worth of insurance for a minor use of.
Indeed. But there's other things that the association has invested into the tune of $182,000 that have low use. So I just want to put it in context in terms of everything that's been invested and what this long-term ongoing investment is. That's all.
Mark, what's your read on this whole use of a pump track anyways? It's sometimes these things go their way, and as kids get older, they don't
Yeah, I
have that.
think what
So
the
I think, do we have an interest? Do we have kids? Do we have people that are trying to coordinate
I don't
things?
know if we can ask this kid that happens to be here tonight, but the thing of it is I don't disagree about trying to figure out a different plan. I guess that's what I want to be specific about here tonight. It's not that I don't necessarily disagree. It's just that I don't want it to be like, well, that's the decision and that's what we did and so on and so forth.
At the end of the day, Mark, And I'll speak for all the board members. If there was even a perception that it was being used, then it would be a non-issue. But perception being reality, and whether we put a turnkey and we click every kid coming in, and we have one for Dexter who will run through that kiosk a bunch of times at the dog park, perception's reality. And so it comes down to that dollar amount. The handful of people that have specifically came and talked to me about it, and as we're having the conversation, I had the conversation with them. Now, whether they accepted it or not, I couldn't tell you. But that's where we're at.
Right.
So,
And I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily agree with that opinion about perception
know
and
you
reality.
don't. I
And
understand
so I
that.
want to be clear about
But
my
at the end of the
position here
day-
tonight.
At the end of the day, by any point of measurement, the cost effectiveness for it, in my humble opinion, just wasn't there this year.
Right. So again, I would love that same lens to be applied towards all the other amenities that
Well, I'll
the
probably
association
tell you
pays
that-
for.
Well, and maybe to end the conversation, I wouldn't support that. It makes no sense to me.
Right.
But that's where we're gonna disagree, and I'm okay with that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, I don't think you can show us a, stone house, or, you just can't hardly show us anything that we've invested in out here that's not getting used, at least, most of the time, honestly. Where the dog park, it got a lot of use, and then it got less and less and less and less, and then it was like, geez, there's never a kid in the park. Holy Toledo, it went a month or 2 months or whatever. And if we all support the kids out here, but it's got to be perception or not. Facts are facts.
Yep.
And we're not trying to get rid of it. We're trying to get use out of it.
Right? And so, again, I want to be super clear. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the way in which we're going to start looking at these sorts of things and trying to figure out a solution and a plan, to Bob's point, about how we look at something like this in the future. If we want to try and include it in the general liability policy, that's great, and we can come up with a plan around that. I guess I just wanted to be judicious about looking at things in total and their usage and how we apply dollars and how we make those evaluations. The overhead cost of putting this thing in costs nothing to the association. But that got ignored in the context of a recurring bill every year. Yeah, it was all donated by the community.
I don't think we ignored any of that. That was part of our discussion, that you guys put that thing in, and it really, it cost us, it cost RMA quite a bit for you guys to put that in. It wasn't like you went over there and shoveled all that dirt on yourself. And, the fence we put, it's the staffing that's required by the insurance company because of that particular facility.
I absolutely understand.
And that, we can't afford that. Now, it's
I
that
understand that
8,000
too.
for the insurance, and then we gotta start paying staff to go staff it.
Agreed.
Unless you guys are gonna say, well, we'll staff it, I'll provide you a staff every Saturday, every Sunday, every evening. I mean,
Yeah, I agree, Sam. Let's work on something.
Well,
yeah, we are.
I guess, let me try and clear the mist. We, the board, are not working on anything, okay? I've asked staff not to move forward. The board president supported that. If somebody brings something back to us that has some recommendations and those type things, then the board will entertain it. At this point, the board is not trying to seek information, directed staff, any of those types of things. We're obligated because of the insurance companies. We tried to work through some things, and quite honestly, it did not work as we were hopeful that it would. And so the best case scenario, other than physically taking it down, is to give whoever uses the pump track, and that young man right there, if it's him, for him, he's bought a few months to come up with a proposal to bring back to us. But no staff time is being allocated to try and figure out usage for that facility.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. Yes.
So I'm Patrick, and this is Jonah.
Hi, Jonah, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you for asking. What grade you in?
Fifth?
Okay, and what's your lot number? 1, 2, 3, 4 for the record. Okay, what's on your mind, son?
Oh, he's a little nervous.
That's
So
fine.
we're actually here, not necessarily for the pump track
Okay.
per se. We're just here to join the meeting.
Okay, perfect.
But Jonah, you were, since we moved in, we're relatively new residents in the
Okay.
last 6 months. We have not been to the pump track. It's been closed.
Right?
And you were saying, Jonah, that would you like to go to the pump track?
I am interested on using the pump track.
Yeah, so to your question about kids interested, we're a household of 3 kids, this is just one.
Right.
All of them are interested. I completely understand the financials. I'm not necessarily, pro or not.
No, understand.
But if the community came together and funded the insurance through fundraisers or some other way, I would imagine there would probably be no issues with opening the pump track. I'm coming late to the conversation, so I apologize.
And you're absolutely right, and I'll tell you, Mark has done a yeoman's job getting that facility up and running. We were able to get a lot of community support in the beginning. Sustaining it's now the difficult part. And so if Jonah, you come up with the game plan and get some buy-in of folks, because there are service groups, there are community groups that are willing to do stuff, whatever stuff is, then we are more than willing. This board is very dedicated to the amenities, because right now our available capacity on all amenities, except for one that's under the spotlight tonight, we're almost at maximum capacity. So if you have a game plan, you have friends, you have schoolmates, yes, start working on it, please. Because the last we want at the end of the day is to take away an amenity and not replace it. That's the bottom line. So, and if you're gonna be around, you're not planning on moving out anytime soon, then we have what Cheryl was asking, that next generation of kids. That's what we need to see. We just don't see it at the board level. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So yes, we are wide open, Jonah. Please come back anytime and give us a proposal or those types of things.
Okay, I have another question.
Yes, sir.
The yogurt shop, across the street. Is it possible for them to get maybe like a golf cart or something, and then they go and sell yogurt
That's a very good question.
inside the community
Okay.
of Rancho Murieta?
I understand that wholeheartedly. They actually have a golf cart that is set up as a yogurt one, and unless governing docs wants to jump in, I'll just keep going.
You're doing great. Now you have to apologize.
There are either good rules or bad rules in this community. And one of the rules is that you don't go through the community selling stuff. And that stuff could be basketballs, it could be bikes, in this case it's yogurt. So with that said, it was July something, we had free ice cream come through the community. Once a year an ice cream truck does come through and they give it away free. Because one of the service groups does that. But one of the reasons people move out here is for a thing called our CC&Rs, or it's kind of like our constitution, if you will. And one of them is businesses don't operate in the community. So to answer your question, no, they cannot do it.
But is it possible for the food trucks, if they can come out to the food trucks, maybe?
Yes, it is more than possible. They've been, and I'll speak for one of the Summerfest board members. All that information's been given to them to what they have to do to join the Food Truck Association. And once that's all complete, then they're able to do it. But again, there's just certain rules that apply to things, and sometimes those rules people like, sometimes people don't. So, but yes, they can, and they have that truck. It's over at storage. So again, all they have to do is join that Food Truck Association and go through that process, and then
To a
they're
specific
good to go.
location, not around.
Yeah, it would be with the food trucks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good questions. Please come back.
thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, the next item would be the RMCSD's Park Committee Operating Guidelines. RMCSD originally drafted these operating guidelines in October 2015 in an effort to provide a quick overview of the Park Committee. The only change on this version that staff recommends is to change the title to read Rancho Murieta Park Committee Overview to better describe the document. It has been to the CSD board several times. This will be the second time the RMA board has discussed a quick overview. The attached guidelines, if approved, will be taken to the October Park Committee meeting for approval by the Parks Committee. The recommendation is to approve the RMCSD's draft of the Park Committee operating guidelines as presented.
Before we move on, I believe we need to vote on the insurance renewal. We had a motion and a second, and is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of renewing the insurance policy as submitted, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, now, what were you saying?
Are there any questions on the RMCSD Park Committee operating guidelines? Staff recommendation is approve the draft of the Park Committee operating guidelines as presented, with the one change of adding the
Changing the title?
title. Yes.
Yeah. All right, I move we approve it with the title change.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Park Committee operating guidelines. Is that what we're approving?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any discussion?
I had a question on, let's see if I can read these numbers, because they're put up 1.2, I think it is. Parks Committee is responsible for the review. That's how it starts out. That's it. The second sentence, it says, inconsistent plans may be approved by the Parks Committee. Can you give me some examples of what inconsistent plans would be referring to there?
Huh?
Why would we approve inconsistent plans? I'm not sure what I...
That language is actually taken directly from the parks, from the PDA themselves,
Oh, it is, okay, all right.
and we've never seen that before, and don't really know what that could mean.
Yeah, I just was thinking that, well, you're crossing things out, you know. But I mean,
Our plans are inconsistent, aren't they?
Where's CSD's approved all this, and now we're just ratifying it? Is that the
We're sending it back to them for approval, are we?
back and
We're-
forth,
we-
back and
Back and
forth?
forth, back and forth.
This should be
Yeah,
the
if you
last
could
time we
clarify,
see
Mark,
it.
That would be great, just since you're here, but I don't want to put you on the spot if you're not in a position. Well, I'll put you on the spot.
Let me reintroduce myself differently. Mark Pegatich, CSD
new
Board
person.
Representative on the Parks Committee.
No lot number attached?
Lot 19er. So this has gone back and forth a couple times between our groups, and so we got comments back from you guys. We sent back over. We had a meeting about it. So I think we're at a point now to where hopefully everybody feels pretty good about it. Conceptually, what we need to do is try and work it with the developer representatives, to get their buy-in.
I was gonna ask you, yeah, that's, I think, the next hurdle of this, but.
Indeed. And so I think what the objective was to get it to the committee from the standpoint of your guys's and our understanding of the PDAs, which I think it has that pretty well now. And so then be able to sit down with the representatives at Parks and work through it and make it an operating guideline just like it's intended, which is, a mode of following, which basically is in the PDAs and simplifies it. There's 3 different PDAs. It's confusing. And so this helps kind of pull it all together in one document and make it agreeable.
All right.
Sound fair?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Well,
No,
that's-
that's what I thought, kind of thought, I just wanted to confirm.
It sounds right, but I'm just trying to,
Yeah, that's a weird clause, isn't it?
very weird clause.
And so some of those things,
It almost looks like a backdoor escape on some kind of park that might not follow the directives. And I'm-
it's item 2, the way it's written,
I don't
right,
like it.
Cheryl? Yeah. And so I think what we need to do, because you're on the committee as well, is kind of work through like defining that, since you kind of identified it and said, okay, well, what's maybe an interpretation of that requirement, and work that through with the representatives. I think that's a good opportunity.
Okay, stay up there because I have one more question. Okay, for 6 point, wait a minute, no, it's not. It's 5.6. RMA is responsible for the collection of park-related fees, both neighborhood and community park fees. There was a discussion at some point when CSD was involved in in collection of fees as well, and then we went back and forth about whether it was just going to be RMA, whether CSD was going to still collect fees. Where is that situation?
As far as I know, and jump in, CSD does not want to collect the fees.
Well, I knew they didn't want to, but
Right.
we often felt that they helped create the,
The illusion that.
well,
there
at
was-
least the ability to get them.
The term backstop has been used a couple times
Yeah.
to describe this, so
We
before the
never
issue.
really wanted CSD to not be part of this, I thought.
No, we're definitely, part of the partner entity that oversees parks heading forwards. It's, there's code that's written that talks about before issuing a water permit for the developer, they need to pay their park fees to RMA, who then distributes them in the context of buying things and so forth underneath the guise of the Parks Committee. So the Parks Committee makes those decisions, they put it on the matrix, and then they say, okay, we're going to spend these monies, like in the case of greens, figuring out what to do there.
Right, I'm not concerned about what we're going to do with them, it's how do we get them if somebody doesn't want to pay them.
Well, I think
Is CSD going to
it's-
still be the
That's,
control?
that's, the position would be is that at some point in time, if it's not paid, then we would have to not issue the permits. There's things that have to be done, though, in order to get that squared away. There's some things that our attorney is looking at to make sure that it's, the
That
way in
needs
which we need to prove
That needs
forward.
to be spelled
for-
out in writing before we would go any further, I think, with this.
Right, and
Nowhere in there.
right, okay. So let's, work through that as part of our discussion, too. And what we can do is we can cite what that code is, if we
Yeah,
need to.
that's all I
Yeah.
don't think it belongs in here, but if it's CSD policy,
The part of the problem is some of that stuff is pretty old,
Yeah.
over 20 years. And so it makes it hard to be enforceable. And so part of that is trying for us to make sure that some of these things are enforceable moving forward.
and at the end of the day, RMA is responsible, and I don't see it with this developer, but whatever developer that comes in, if we have to take action, then we have to take action as the association and move forward. So, I mean,
I'd
irrespective
rather
of-
not like to get us to get into, to be doing the litigation if it's just
Oh,
a simple
I-
thing of not issuing a
I-
water permit.
I understand.
No, I know, and I understand the
Yeah.
legal, I mean, all I really understand is what I've read,
Yeah.
in the media. The legal counsel has come up with some opinions, and he's basically sent them back to think about it further. Kind of.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have to do a little bit of legwork. There's been a number of things talked about, like a nexus study, which was since abandoned. So, but I think Tim makes a really important point there. What we're doing now is kind of pave the way ideally for after we're gone. And up until this point, I think because of the confusion with the PDAs and whatnot, this is something that's kind of like bedrock in a sense for us. So after all of us peel off of these boards, there's something to move forward with that we can all agree to. And I think that's important work.
I have one thing on item number, and I think it's, instead of 5.6, it was like number 6, they scratched out the first number.
Yeah,
Anyway, number 4, at the last word on page 2, it says, requires modification to PDAs requiring all parties to resign. Shouldn't there be a dash between RE and sign? It's re-sign?
Or resign.
tell me the number you're thinking again?
On the second page of that document,
Second page.
the last word,
Well, that's a
All
comment.
parties to re-sign, I see what it's.
shouldn't that a dash? Just English, I don't know. I'm not an English major, so.
Okay,
Then
let's
why'd
see
you
now.
bring it up?
Modification PDA.
It seemed like it ought to
require all
be-
parties to resign.
Re-sign.
And just for the record, that's
Should be
CSD
R
language, not
dash
RMA.
sign.
RE dash sign.
Yeah, you're right, because that means resign means to, pull
Yeah,
out, pull
what I
out.
mean.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you're right, but it would be,
So just for semantics, I hate to see everybody resign.
I wouldn't mind seeing somebody.
Okay, where's the paperwork?
Hell, I
But
have.
that's not actually part of the document, that's just a comment on the,
I know, but it's,
Right.
right.
the document, we added the document, then it'd be real clear. Resign,
Yeah.
re-sign the document.
Right.
It will.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
it actually,
well, then never mind.
some of those things we had to show back so you can show what ours were coming back. But so ultimately, I mean, this is good feedback and we should capture it. Sure, I'll bring it to the meeting with you and then we can keep moving ahead.
Yep.
So thank you.
Are we ever gonna get $178,000?
Yes, it's in the works, Sam, relax.
I heard that about 4 years ago when I first came on the board. It was in the mail or something.
Right. The pigeon's still flying, so slow it down.
Okay, it's been
There's a
moved
Hillary
and
server somewhere in there.
seconded to approve the revised Park Committee operating guidelines.
Yeah, it's an overview.
Overview of
Review.
said guidelines.
You have to throw that in, huh?
Any,
Could we amend?
Go ahead.
Could we amend that to be still a work in progress? It is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, when you say approve it, then we would accept it
Well,
the
we're
way
approving
it
it to go over to CSD,
is. CSD for,
to go on to the park.
did you
So-
make the original motion?
I mean,
Revise the motion.
yeah, it's,
I
one-
don't know what I moved.
let me see if I can do that now. Let's approve the
moved
Parks
to send it-
Development Agreement. I move that we approve the Parks Development Agreement with revisions to go back to the committee.
Did you withdraw your original
I
motion?
withdraw the motion, I'll second her motion, so that's how we do it that way.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to do what Cheryl said. Any more discussion? Do you have
Just
anything
to
else?
help with the motion. That's right. We send it back to committee and now I think is the next step.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it goes to the board, Mark, CSD board, or is it go?
We're comfortable with what's in there. And
Okay,
so our,
we'll just go to parks.
yeah, we would go to parks next with the draft
Your
that's
board's
in.
seen it, our board's seen it, now it goes back to Parks, right?
You
Okay.
nailed it.
All right.
We just need to get it off our plate and move on.
Yeah. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay, the next item is the ad hoc townhouse landscape maintenance. Attaches a recommendation from Director Shelton for the formation of an ad hoc committee to assess townhouse landscaping maintenance. The purpose of the committee will be to develop a plan to transfer maintenance of the shrub areas exclusive to each townhouse to the individual townhouse owner. And I'll turn it over to Larry now.
We've been in discussion with this, the staff and Rod and I have been talking about this issue for several months now. The problem is that the CCNRs are very clear about who has responsibility around the townhouses. And those documents I've cited for you so that you can reference them. I've also quoted them here if you, so that you can read them. But basically, the townhouse owners, when they have bought their properties, they've been long told that they're paying in the HMO, the homeowners association funds are covering landscaping, and that's really not true at all. It hasn't been for many years. And that really kind of started changing in 1996, and then significant change happened in 2010. And the reason that occurred was that originally the Townhouse Association, MTI, was collecting funds in their homeowners association for the landscaping and paying RMA to do it, because they're not in the landscaping business. At some point, those homeowners association dues started exceeding $300 a month, and the townhouse owners started complaining. So they decided to rescale their operation, and when they did, they took out landscaping off of the cost, and they also took out driveway replacement and several other things. The only thing they really do now for the homeowners association dues that we're paying, that the homeowners, the townhouse owners are paying for is a roof replacement, outside painting, and insurance, the exterior insurance. So the CCNRs were changed and ratified by the townhouse owners in 2010 to reflect those changes. RMA decided that this was such a controversial issue that they would continue to maintain the landscaping and eat the cost. And that that cost has been estimated to be about $100,000 a year for the 200 or so townhouse owners that we have. Let me clarify something about that area that we're talking about. Around the townhouses, there are actually two different zones of area that we kind of discuss here. One is the footprint or the lot itself that the townhouse is on, which is defined here in this document to be the landscaping directly adjacent to that townhouse. And the other is the common area between the townhouses. The common area is clearly RMA's responsibility. It's in the CCNRs. And again, the landscaping is clearly, for the townhouse, is clearly the responsibility of the townhouse owner. One of the biggest complications in making a transition of any kind in this is the fact that the irrigation system that currently feeds most of the townhouse owners' personal landscaping on their lot is controlled by RMA. And it's underground. And so that's going to be a major change. But what I'm trying to accomplish here is this. Let me kind of run to the bottom line here, and then you guys can ask me questions if you'd like. Is I would like to get a group of people together, MTI, representative from MTI, and a representative from RMA, and Rod, and anybody else on staff that it would be appropriate. In addition to that, a group of people that own townhouses to get together and understand what the obligations are and how do we proceed to make this work for everyone. And it's not going to be an easy transition, as you can imagine. Most townhouse owners think that they're paying for it now, and they're really not. And they've actually voted against that, against paying for it. So I think this is a kind of an area just cleaning up the CCNRs and getting things in a little better frame of mind for everyone, including the maintenance people here.
Just to clarify, I think you're talking mainly about the Front Lake area over here. I mean, that's...
You know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which. I'm not sure where the responsibility of MTI extends, but I think there's some other townhouse.
Yeah, well, it takes in all the townhomes.
All the
Does that
townhouses.
include the lake townhouses?
Yes, yes. But, you know, not every place is the same. I'll just use where I live, for example. We take care of our own and we irrigate with our water, and in many cases, we have a gardener to come in and we pay a gardener to take care of it.
And I think that works great. And that works great, and that's one of the solutions.
One of the problems is MTI, there is no common area for MTI. All MTI, or all common area in Rancho Murieta belongs to the Rancho Murieta Association.
Right.
I'd like your goal to get people to take care of their own. Now, I don't know what work Rod does, say, on Domingo or the other
Lago.
street along the 14th Fairway, Trinidad.
You know, like what breaks that 100,000, what's that? You said that's not common area. So,
It is.
I asked, excuse me, Rod, just a second, let me clarify that real quick. I asked Rod for an estimate of just the landscaping around the townhouses that he currently does, not counting the common area. Now, go ahead.
So it's all townhouses.
It's all.
Yeah, so that 100,000 includes what used to be defined as the townhouse common area. So which was defined as the border plants, as Larry has mentioned, that borders the foundation of the home all the way around and between the driveways. The areas outside of that have always been known as just common areas there for use in common by the entire membership. So hopefully that kind of clarifies it. But, and then getting back to Jim's question, he's right. Every one of them is a little bit different. So around the front lake, those areas that are clearly RMA's responsibility, and we do more regular maintenance, unlike those border plants. Those border plants get, by board policy, get 2 times a year pruning. That's basically the level of maintenance, and that's what's encompassed in that $100,000. So there have been a few changes that RMA boards in the past, I think rightfully have made for areas like Chesbro, where they don't have the big massive lawns. So they get 2 times a year pruning, and then in addition to that, every 2 to 3 years we'll go in and top dress all those common areas with bark, because it's unfair to ask the members to do those big, huge common areas. And it's in similar type of arrangements happen at each one of those different townhouse areas. So we have them on Domingo, we have them on Domingo Court, Trinidad, Fuente de Paz, Chesbro, and then Laguna Joaquin.
Is there I don't know, I don't have a dog in the hunt from a owner's perspective, because I'm not in a townhouse, but, I mean, is there a dispute right now between RMA and MTI over what we're doing or should be doing?
Well, I guess you probably could classify it as a dispute. So the problem with the existing policy and that Larry's trying to work on is the fact that right now it's kind of a lose-lose situation, and here's why. As all of you, as homeowners know, 2 times a year pruning is not really maintenance. And in some cases is somewhat counterproductive, because if we go in 2 times a year and do those prunings, then there are times where we're going through at times where plants are starting to flower, or we are having to prune things back more than what you would if you did normal maintenance. There's a lot of plant material that you ought to be doing periodic pruning weekly or monthly. We're going in and cutting those back so that they're not overgrown by the time we get there in 6 months again. So yeah, there's some controversy in regards to how it's being done now, for certain.
As I said, I encourage any action you can take to get people to take ownership of stuff that's right around their house. That's just common sense to me. You're going to have a harder time transitioning them to their own water and take responsibility for that. But
I think that's part of the deal, though, because, I mean, I actually have gone through this process in recent months myself to convert, to have my own landscaping within the lot area. And the problem was that once I started trying to maintain that, I had a tremendous difficulty doing so, because the sprinklers come on in the middle of the night, and I don't know if they're sprinkling or not. I don't know if they're really watering the shrubs that I just put in, or the plants I put in. So it's important, I think, in this process to work out a process where we convert that sprinkler system to the homeowner's responsibility, which reduces, that's got a lot of positive things overall. It reduces our demand on Laguna Joaquin as an irrigation lake. It also allows the homeowner to control their own shrubs, whether they're dying or not, and not have to continue to monitor that and try and get someone from RMA to work on it.
I have a few questions just because I'm the village idiot, but
That's what they said at the village, too.
well, my phone's always ringing. I don't understand, why did MTI get out of the landscape business? Because it was too expensive, right? Is that how
because they have no common area.
Okay.
So we're assuming,
Okay, in 1996, prior to 1996, MTI did pay for the landscaping,
Right.
and they did have that obligation per the CCNRs, because the CCNRs identified them as townhouse areas.
okay,
In 96, a reference to townhouse areas was removed and RMA common areas was inserted, and so that changed them from townhouse common areas to RMA common areas. And so at that point, when those documents were changed, MTI says, we no longer pay then the RMA board would deliberate it to, do we continue to maintain as is? Do we return to a native state, or we do something in between? And the in-between solution was decided upon, and that being twice-a-year prunings.
What was MTI paying? 30,000, 100,000?
Colleen says about 30,000 a year.
So they were paying RMA to do the work?
Right.
So same people were doing the work. And so, did they get weekly service then, or what?
They did.
They did.
So they paid less, they get weekly service.
So what Larry's proposing here is almost the same discussion that was had in 96 is, okay, if you guys don't want to maintain it yourself, we're going to return it to its natural state.
Yeah, I live on the south. I don't know how much common area we have on the south. So, oh, that's right. So, but I'm paying the full common area maintenance for everybody else on the north, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it.
I know you do. I guess it doesn't make sense for RMA, the association and the members to take this dollar task on. That's where I'm just grappling with this. I agree with the president. If you don't like the landscaping and you want to upgrade it, have at it. But I just don't see the dollar numbers working out.
The dollar amount is what it's costing RMA now, that's the estimate, that landscaping is costing us to do.
Right.
And the idea is if we can convert all of the townhouse owners to their own responsibility for that footprint, then RMA will no longer have that $100,000 liability.
Okay, then Rod,
And their staffing to accomplish this.
Let me ask Rod a question. Rod,
I was talking, but that's okay.
well, yeah, but
I know, go ahead.
I'm replacing the village idiot with number 2.
Vice President here.
Rod, if the issue is water, in other words, I've had that complaint from 2 other MTI residents that said, you know, they planted stuff and it died, never got water sufficiently or at the right time, or I don't know. But the big complaint was the water. Is changing each townhouse to some kind of drip system around that house an easy task, or do they have outside hose bibs that we can, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out some way to let them have it, but help them some way get that drip system around their.
Well, a large percentage of them actually have already done that. And I went through the process just recently. You can buy a $39.95 controller out of your hardware store, hook it onto a faucet, and all of us have outside faucets, numerous ones. You hook that on, and you run a master drip line around your shrubs and have trunk lines, and it's battery operated. You don't even have to have electricity to make it work. You don't have to have an outlet. I probably did it for under $100. Every shrub I've got, and I've got quite a few. I've got over 100 shrubs around my townhouse. So it's not a difficult task, but it may be a difficult task for some townhouse owners to accomplish. They would probably opt to hire someone to do that for them.
So,
Yeah, well, some of these things are not just numbers we pulled out of the air. This discussion has been going on with the staff for some time to try and come up with a resolution, and the staff has bought into this idea. So I think that's the significant thing, is that they like the idea of moving towards the townhouse owners have the responsibility for their own lot, and giving them some financial incentive to accomplish that initially, so that eventually we're not continually out the landscaping fees.
So then what happens to the common area?
Common area still has to be maintained, but it's
no, it
on
doesn't.
automatic sprinklers and just mowed.
But it doesn't. We can let it go back or even turn it
Oh, we
back
could. Sure, we could.
to natural. I'm still lost at this whole concept that we're paying a homeowner to do something.
Common area is not just between the townhouses. It's around this lake, it's around other lakes. There's a lot of common area. It's down the middle of the roads. There's a lot of common area that is maintained, not just around the townhouses.
Well, I thought
what
are
this
we talking
does,
about the townhouse?
we're talking about that, which is that's common area though that's maintained now. And it's defined as common area, and it's defined as RMA's responsibility in the CCNRs.
Rod, could you maybe,
Yeah. Would love to. So to answer your question, Tim, the larger common areas, so you look out across the lake and you see all that green. That is something that was put in for use in common by the entire membership.
Correct.
People that walk the lake and so forth and so on. So we are literally talking about, and I'm going to go ahead and use the terminology that I know is no longer there, but I only use it so that we can try to set up where we're at now, and that is the townhouse common areas that used to be referred to as townhouse common areas, which is kind of a fancy name for a landscape license. There was one owner of that license, which was the MTI. And I bring that up because those are the only areas that we're really talking about right now. I think that we all agree that the larger common areas are clearly the RMA's responsibility and will always be. So the ones that Larry's referring to and we're referring to are those ones that are just the border plants around the homes and between the driveways. And I'd also like to add that part of the reason why this discussion or ad hoc committee is appealing to us is Larry's 1 out of 200 townhouse owners. Well, there's 2 of them here in this room at least, and probably 3. Okay, there we go. That each one of them have probably planted plants themselves that may be next to something that needs very little water, or they put in some drip irrigation in some area and shut off sprinklers in others. Those landscapes are so pertinent to each individual home that it's very difficult for anybody to be very effective or efficient at maintaining them, with the exception of the townhouse owners themselves, because they're pertinent to that home only. So that's why, again, I think it's obviously there's a whole lot of things still to work through, but we're really only talking about those areas, the areas that are adjacent to the townhouse in between the driveways.
And the way I view this is you got the driveways, you got the sidewalks, those are exclusive use items to those units. And so those units are responsible for maintaining those because they're exclusive to that unit. Well, I think these landscapes are also exclusive to those units.
I would think so.
And so I think by definition you can say these are exclusive use
Yeah.
common areas, and therefore they should be maintained by the owner.
I would
Now,
agree.
in order to make that happen, if we give them $300 in order to convert the watering system from an RMA watering system to a private watering system, in order to make that happen, to me that makes sense. But on the other hand, we also have to be willing to, if the people opt not to take advantage of this, to terminate the water to those areas and let them go back to natural.
Well, again,
Now, again, let me draw a correlation here. I'm sorry for interrupting you, or clarification. We're only talking about the landscaping that is exclusive to the townhouse. We're not
Right.
talking about the common area.
oh, no, I understand. I
Okay,
understand.
and that common area, I don't have any control over. In fact, CCNRs clearly state I can't keep people from using it.
Correct.
Okay, so I've got shrubs that the only way they're gonna trim them is to get on my deck. And in all honesty, they either climb up over the railing or they come through the house to get to the deck so that they can trim the shrubs. Either that or I do it. And there's a lot of people that have landscaping that way. And that's why we need to move beyond what we're doing now for a lot of different reasons. And
But why are we paying somebody to do it? That's where I'm just lost at this.
Well, if I may, I guess probably the most appropriate terminology I guess we could use right now is to somewhat stop the bleeding, if you will. So we've been doing it for quite some time. Whether it was intentional or unintentional in regards to the change in the governing documents, it was changed. And
Right, no,
so
I get
it
that.
certainly, so it certainly, that responsibility lies on the RMA, and we've decided, okay, that responsibility, we dictate what it's going to be, is going to be 2 times year pruning. If we help solve this problem, instead of washing our hands from it, which I don't think is going to be easily done, the end goal is that the residents are going to have control over those landscapes, and we are going to eliminate that liability and that $100,000 that we're spending each year. So if we spend a little up front here to try to get this done, because it's certainly an impact for those 200 members, it gets us to a point to where everybody's at an even kill.
So what I don't get is, why don't we just do that and move forward, and that's our,
Yeah.
why do we need to have a committee to figure out what we want to do?
I guess,
When we know what we want to do.
and maybe I'm wrong, Greg,
That's what I don't get.
I get what you called, and it's to you, but Rod was talking about a term called landscape license, the MTI. You're saying exclusive use. If we're talking exclusive use, then it goes to ARC, and we have an exclusive use agreement, and they go through that process, and we move on.
Because then
Now, it doesn't quite work that way, Tim. Here's why. They're already, by what you've written in here, they've got this exclusive use already for this area right around 2 feet out or whatever it is around each house and the driveway and in between the driveways. That already exists, so that we don't have to go through the exclusive use.
So every
Process.
house has 2 feet going out.
At least.
Every townhouse.
And
Whatever
and
that-
in most cases more, because they own the sidewalk, they own the shrubs in between the townhouse and the sidewalk, and in many cases, there's shrubs on the other side of the sidewalk, which are also exclusive
He
use.
says several feet. I don't know how much it is.
Yeah.
I haven't read that part of it.
It could be 2 in places, it could be 8 or 10.
If I may add real quick, I think we're using 2 different terminology. Exclusive use, coming in and applying for an exclusive use so that you can build a pool or you can build whatever, versus a landscape license area which is exclusively used by an individual. So it doesn't require an exclusive use to put in the landscapes and so forth. It just requires a license.
And we have that then for the folks that have done that.
Well, no. We lost it when the governing documents were changed. Those areas were referred to as a townhouse common area. And as Jim
I get I'm
alluded
an
to.
idiot, I'm sorry. This is
No,
just
no,
not
no.
making sense
It is
to me.
quite confusing. Believe me, I've been here 35 years. It still confuses me.
it would not be practical to try to assess each one of those homeowners, the fee that goes along with the exclusive use.
Right, I'm not even talking about the fee.
Besides, the 2 feet that we're talking about, in many cases, the homeowner's actual property line will extend out. It's just been a board decision made 20 years ago that said, okay, RMA is going to take care of that common area. We want to change that. And I think this is a good place to start. Mark, you had something you want to say?
Well, we're talking about all these different elements, but okay, when you're talking about exclusive use or common area lease, you do have townhouses that do have improvements, decks, patios, and various other elements that are outside their lot lines that are under lease. Now, landscape license is strictly landscaping, no hardscapes, and which is what Rod's talking about. Now, that's strictly a landscape license.
So why wouldn't we have these people go through the landscape license process so we now know who has it or who doesn't, and we whittle it down? Because you told me most have converted already out of 200.
No, I said some have, not most.
There are a few who have actually gone in and done their own landscaping, which we have those approvals in our lot files for those individuals, but it is a small number. But
That's to modify the current landscaping.
Yes. but you have a lot of landscape out there that was done many, many years ago, and it was done under a different scenario.
And Tim, the landscape license would be the proper vehicle to capture those areas.
Yeah,
I think this is a complex problem, and I agree that something should be done about it. That's why I don't think we can render a decision tonight. I think the,
Can we move ahead with the idea of the ad hoc committee? Because
Yeah,
I think
that's what I-
one way or the
Yeah,
other.
I'm not even sure, why do we need an ad hoc committee?
I think ARC.
Why can't
It's
ARC
ARC.
deal with it?
Let me address that.
Deal with it.
One of the issues you've got is buy-in for the townhouse owners. This is going to require, have to require a lot of discussion, a lot of open dialogue with the townhouse owners for them to understand what the rules are and what the limits are and what their options are. And they can help develop these options for the future for us to vote on. That's why I don't necessarily think that an ad hoc committee has to occur, but we have to have a mechanism somehow to get so that MTI can explain to the townhouse owners why they're no longer responsible and why the townhouse owners are. And then we need to have town meetings or whatever we do to inform the residents about this issue. This is a slow process, and it's going to be a difficult one. I don't think it's going to be an easy transition. But I'm just thinking that a committee is the way to start and see where we go, and that committee then can bring suggestions back to the board that the townhouse owners have for remedy of the problem, whether it be changing the architect or changing the landscaping and getting permits to do it, or having RMA just come in and rip out the current landscaping so that there's no obligation for the townhouse owner, or trying to maintain what they have. I think there's a lot of different options.
Since you brought this up, are you looking to head up an ad hoc committee? Is that kind of the thinking you're having?
I will be more than happy to tackle it. I think it should be underneath the maintenance committee.
I don't. I think it should go under ARC. I think we're back to that landscaping license, get that figured out. Once we get all that done, then we can start moving forward.
I think you'll find the perception of the MTI owners is that it's RMA's responsibility.
Yeah.
And they believed that for a long time.
And it's a maintenance issue more
Yeah, it's a
than
maintenance
anything
issue.
else.
Yeah.
So, Rod, if tomorrow this was all done as it's indicated here, everybody got their own water supply or whatever, you're indicating that we're gonna save $100,000 a year based on not having to do this, whatever we do twice a year? It cost us,
That sounds like a trick question.
well, I'm
So,
looking at
so I'm gonna restructure it a little bit.
good.
I think that it's a win-win because the rest of our common areas will certainly get the much-needed attention that they deserve. So yeah, it will transfer those man-hours over to do a better job in the rest of our common areas and parks and streets.
I would not support this idea of paying a homeowner $300-400 to do something. I would, find out how many people are interested in doing it, find a contractor, and, find out how much that's gonna cost, and then just have a contractor go to.
That was one of my ideas also. And I don't think that a lot of these solutions are in concrete. In fact, none of them are. They're only a guide that I stuck in here so that you guys could understand what we were trying to accomplish. And I think that's what the committee can work through and decide how they best want to approach this as townhouse owners.
So where do I go to get my 400?
How long?
You could be a member. You could be a member of the committee.
How long would this take, this ad hoc committee, if it was formed, to come with some resolution here? 2 months, 3 months, 30 minutes?
Well,
A year?
Nothing's done in
How
30
much longer are
minutes.
you going to be on the board?
Well,
to me, it's if it's staff recommendation that we move forward with this, as board members, we move forward with it. And we set a timetable and an implementation plan and we move on. So to me, it's cut and dry. It's not getting buy-in, and no disrespect to the townhouse folks, but if it's staff recommendation and it's up to the board to vote on it, then we come back with an implementation plan and we move on.
I'm trying to divert an awful lot of people in the audience and people at the podium,
Well,
as soon as you tell them that.
Well, which is fine, and I appreciate that, because right now, if I understand it correctly, Rod's damned if he is, damned if he doesn't. So if it's purely, we need to move this direction and staff feels that way, then come up with an implementation plan and we move on.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
I
to
don't see
me,
how this is, I need buy-in or, because
think-
there's
yeah,
gonna
to
be a
me, it's
handful-
all, I mean, I agree with him. I mean, we either move forward or we don't move forward with it. I mean, that's what we want to do or we don't want to
Yeah.
do. And the rest of it's just PR at that point.
Right, because
and
I
we're
would
just
almost,
buying time.
I would almost go back to staff and say, give me the implementation plan.
I think you need to hear both sides of the story before you jump too quick.
Well, do you have any idea how the residents?
I don't
They're
want
gonna
having a
fight
town
it.
hall meeting
They're-
or something.
They're gonna go right through the ceiling. I've already had people telling me that, I'm gonna sue my realtor, because my realtor told me that this was covered.
This ain't the only thing they've lied about, so I get that. But at the end of the day, if you're coming forward as a board member saying that this is an issue, then I would say just come back with an implementation plan and we move on. I don't know where the
Adopt it,
emotions come
modify it,
in.
do whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I like your idea. It's been a long time since somebody tried to tackle this issue, and it needs to be tackled. And I don't think you can do it from our side only. It needs to have input from the MTI people.
If you thought midge flies were tough.
No, I knew this was a tough one. When I first took over the maintenance, the chair of the maintenance committee, I asked Rod what his most important issue was, and this was it. And
Yeah, it's called
we've been
maintenance.
kind of discussing it ever since, on what we could do to solve this. And as a homeowner, as a townhouse owner, I think it's imperative that we get their buy-in.
Oh, and I understand
rather
that.
than just hitting them with, okay, this is a new rule, whack, it's your responsibility. I think we need to work at this slowly, and I think we need to have discussion with them. I think we need for them to be able to have buy-in with whatever it is that we need to do to accomplish this.
And I agree
We'll
with
write
all
them a
that.
real stern letter.
I agree.
never
I
mind.
agree too. I'd like to
Let it
see us
go.
go. I think I'd like to see us, do a little bit of study on it and come up with at least some options for us to look at, rather than just saying, oh, let's just move forward with it. I mean, I think we need to look at some options, because maybe, there'd be some people who would like to have, like what you had suggested, a chance to, move into this, you get a contractor and then people will sign up if they want to have it done for their unit. I was just asking him, I said, maybe there are some people who wouldn't mind paying a little extra in their dues just to have it be
Clearly they
landscaped.
don't, because that's why MTI jumped out of it and dumped
Well,
it to us. So that was taken care of there.
MTI probably jumped out of it because they probably couldn't get their dues raised and they didn't have the money to keep continuing
Right,
it.
so it's an RMA problem. I get it. It's
So,
always our issue.
but, a lot of those units have turned over now. There's people, I think, because, I don't know, the unit that I have a renter in right now, some of them have a lot of landscape and some of them don't have that much. I don't have that much, so it wouldn't be that costly for
I
us.
guess if you want to have a subcommittee of maintenance or something, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know that we need an ad hoc board.
I don't,
So that's
I
what
don't
I'm
think so, but
struggling
that's,
with.
I saw this as a subcommittee of maintenance, and we meet a few times and see what happens, see what kind of response we get, see
well,
what
but,
kind of.
okay, let's just play devil's advocate and I'll let it go. Pick a percentage. 51% say, hell no, it's a great deal, RMA's doing all the work. Does it stop?
Yeah,
Well, that doesn't make sense to me. You
It's
just
not.
told me I could save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The RMA's maintenance stops on the lot, and we're trying to work through a transition for the homeowner so that they, I mean, if they don't want to pay anything, if they don't want to pay a private landscaper, if they don't want to have someone come in and change everything to a drip, then RMA will just come out and rip out the shrubs and throw some bark in there and everything's fine.
And that'll go pretty smooth. All right, yeah.
Well, I mean, but they would have options. We're giving them options.
Okay, I just think if you and Rod can get together in maintenance and put something together, I don't know, but I'm kind of with Tim on this one. If staff wants to do this, can you guys put a plan together through maintenance or whatever and let it be? I don't know if we need to formalize ad hoc.
Well, I think it would be important to get some representation of townhome owners, because there are some, there's some good ideas.
3 out of 4.
And the sense of the board is that, yeah, we want to move ahead on this. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. So, you know, the idea, this is going to happen. Now, let's make it happen in the best way possible, so that there's the least disruption to your landscaping. But it is going to be turned back over to you.
Right.
And
Mr. General Manager, are you gonna take this over now and see that it happens, get back to us with something?
He dozed off a half hour ago.
I think that Larry just laid out what my plan would be.
Yeah, his plan is this. His plan is to have a committee that works on it and solves the issue with the townhouse owners, and then comes back to the board and lets them ratify it.
So if the committee is to, I guess, I mean, I could live with a committee that reports to, I guess really a subcommittee of the maintenance committee to decide this issue. I don't want to deal with this every month at the board for the next year, till I'm off the board and we're still arguing about it.
I mean, I can guarantee it's going to be a very volatile issue.
Sure, but I mean, I think it should be worked out at the committee level as much as possible through maintenance. And if they need a subcommittee of townhouse people to coordinate with and come up with strategies, then I'm all for that. I don't know, if we need to have a board motion to do that, or can the maintenance just go out and set up a subcommittee?
Well, I think there are several different portions. I think Tim's right. At some point, it needs to even go to the ARC in regards to the license, landscape license. If we do all this, then obviously we want to make sure that we've dotted all our I's and crossed all the T's and said, okay, here's a license. Whether it cost anything or not is another story. But then that way, that ties that realtor can't come in and say, okay, this is taken care of for you. Those landscape license would roll over. So I think there are a lot of different elements to this.
What we don't want is what we have now. Right now, we have some residents that do take care of their landscaping, some that don't. And so every 4th unit we might trim, and then the 5th unit we're supposed to skip, and unit number 8, then we're supposed to do shrubs on the north side only. That's what we don't want. We want either all or nothing.
Well, I get it's going to be emotional, but at the end of the day, if staff is recommending, as you are, Larry, that we do something, then it's an implementation plan. When we have the stakeholders' input, we may or may not agree, and at the end of the day, we might agree to disagree. But if that's the direction we're going, because that's what's needed of the community, then we just have to go through those processes.
You will look a lot, this board will look a lot better with the townhouse owners if we make an effort to get buy-in from them before we slap them in the face.
Oh, and I'm not saying that we don't, but I'm also telling you, there's gonna be, and pick a percentage, that go, hell no, just because. And then decisions will have to be made, so.
So what board action do we need tonight, I guess? That's kind of where I'm stuck at. What do we really need to do tonight besides job opening?
We just give you direction to proceed with this?
Well, I mean, I guess if somebody were to make a motion to form an ad hoc committee, and we'd see if it gets voted up or down.
All right, well, I'll move to form a ad hoc subcommittee of the maintenance committee to discuss the townhouse landscape issues.
do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to form an ad hoc subcommittee of the maintenance committee to discuss the landscape issues. Any more discussion?
I think they should add to that, come forward with a proposal to the board.
I agree. And I also would, I don't know if it's important that we discuss who would be members, but I'd like Rod and MTI, representative from MTI, and, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 townhouse owners.
Yeah, I leave that to the
They have their own
discretion.
association, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. They have their own.
Yeah, MTI, yeah.
MTI is their association, so
They've got a board.
To me, it'd be one association working with another association, but.
Don't get too many other-
Again,
Yeah, that's what
I'm the village idiot here. so.
Yeah, except their association has nothing to do with landscape issues.
No,
But they represent.
But they represent the-
Their
yeah.
association members, I assume, just like, I assume we represent all of our association members.
Right.
and the first question you're gonna get from a townhouse owner is, I thought RMA was, or MTI was doing this.
Well, if they listen to
Because many-
this,
many of them-
they'll understand that.
Yeah, many of them say, oh, that's MTI out there, trimming my shrub, and it's really not. It hasn't been for years. So it's an educational thing.
Well, it's no different than people trespassing on the trail systems on private property that's owned by a developer. They think it's open space and it's not, so it's.
Well, I would see the committee being formed in a manner as to however the maintenance committee and its chair desires.
Could you add that Larry be the chair of the ad hoc committee?
Well, he would by de facto.
Be fact, because it's under the
It's
maintenance
under
committee.
maintenance.
Oh, all right.
So however they want to do it is up to them, as far as I'm concerned, who they want and don't want.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Congratulations, Larry.
get another job.
Keeps him out of the kitchen.
And next, for the general manager's report.
God, we're still on him?
Yeah, this is the landscape fee waiver that we were supposed to do in July.
Who'd that fall under? ARC?
Yes,
Strong
it
work.
did.
Strong work.
We haven't even got to the budget yet.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah.
What?
It's working, get it closer.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
This is my binder on the governor's executive orders on drought, if anyone's interested in reading it. I knew you would be. So last year, the board suspended for a one-year trial period to suspend the $100 ARC landscape review fee so that people could re-landscape dead lawns, reduce water use, things like that. That year ran from August 1st, 2015 to July 31st, 2016. Then at the August board meeting, the board asked that it be up for reconsideration.
Correct.
And so that's what we have here tonight. There were several, I think 4 or 5 residents who filed plans between August 1st and September 20th. So if the board does extend the fee waiver, those residents would be refunded.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a motion and move on.
Can we make the motion, my recommendation would be that we tie it to Governor Brown's state of emergency proclamation. When that's done, then we go back to doing business instead of an annual thing, because we're gonna have this exact same issue every single year. No offense to ARC, but it's gonna come back every year.
We're gonna extend it for 2, so.
Oh,
I'd
you're
be
off the
gone.
board, yeah.
I'm off the
yeah,
board.
Yeah, nice, strong word. I would say we tie it to the state proclamation, and when that's done, then we're back to
And
business.
who's gonna remember that?
Well, I would assume staff, because she has the binder. I'm just assuming.
Is there a sunset clause in the proclamation now? Is there any sunset clause in it?
Well, so it's been amended.
You're the expert.
Unfortunately, it's been amended, and they add, this, that, and the other things to it. And one of the items that was in here was the areas that were not covered by a water shortage contingency plan, that for small water suppliers in rural communities, they had to do a separate one. And these executive orders touch pretty much every department that the state has. It's very encompassing, and it's just a little tiny bit that impact HOAs. So I talked to Darlene over at CSD, and they do have a water shortage contingency plan that they had written in 2012.
Have you guys seen that plan? Yeah, that's,
All we have to do is tie it to somebody.
that
Otherwise,
plan-
we're gonna have this
Well,
issue.
is
come
that
up.
problematic? I mean, I kind of agree with Tim. Let's just keep this in effect until the executive order goes away.
Yeah, we'll know
Is that
when
a
it's
problem?
undone. It'll be in the
That would
in the
probably be
press.
easiest from a
Money-
staff level.
It'll be
Okay.
on .com, and we can go
Alright.
that way.
Well,
Yeah.
we had a motion, I guess?
Yeah,
Do you want to revise that motion?
I haven't made one yet.
yeah, let's make one.
Oh, well,
I move that we waive the fee for landscaping if it reduces water usage until the governor's executive order, emergency proclamation of April the 25th, 2014 is modified or
Rescinded or
rescinded.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, but moved and seconded to extend the landscape fee waiver. Any more discussion?
Yes, and the amendment is to refund the fees paid by those that have paid it since August the 1st.
Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good.
Is it time for breakfast yet?
You're gonna have to speed up that general manager's report. Okay, committee activities. First up, finance.
Yes, the Finance Committee met September 15th, approved the minutes of the previous meeting. The committee reviewed the 2017 reserve study and recommended approval of that to the board. So the board needs to, I'd make a motion that the board approve the reserve study, and eventually we're going to send out a synopsis of that to the members.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the reserve study for 2017.
Is this approved both the reserve study and the monthly contribution of 50,800, or we deal with that?
That's the recommended contribution from the reserve study. and
I mean, does your motion include that then, that recommendation, I guess?
No, I think we're going to visit that when we
Do the budget?
do the budget.
Okay.
But it's included in the current budget. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I do have a question. On page 19 of the reserve study, it's got a chart of how well we're doing on our percentage. And for years 2019 through 2025, we dropped below a strong rating to a fair rating. Is that an issue that is important to address, or are we all right in that?
I think what you have to keep in mind with the reserve study, that oftentimes we extend the lives of our assets.
Sure, it's based on life.
And so
Yeah, it's based on
when they project these lots that we're going to fall to these percents funded, sometimes it may not occur because we extend lives of assets. And so I think as you get closer to those years, you're going to have to reevaluate that time to see how we have done as far as extending assets and what we have and have not replaced.
Yeah, but this isn't an alarming chart that.
I mean, we're still legally, there is actually no legal requirement that we have any type of percentage, but I think the percentage, I think the important thing you look at is you want to have enough cash to meet your obligations, and you're going to have more than enough cash to meet your obligations for those periods.
Okay.
Yeah, the reserve study will go through cycles, but we've always been very strongly funded.
I just wondered if there was a need to readjust our assessments of time spanned or cost for replacement of different items to keep us within a certain percentage of strength here.
I think probably the most important thing is just to make sure we don't fall below zero, and secondly, that we continue to fund the plan at some reasonable level. In the last couple of years, we didn't fund it according to what they suggested, and so we're down from where we were before.
Yeah, there was a big hit on it, 2018, which is what's driving this below the 70% tile bracket.
Well, yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago at least, we were at 95% funded or something, and now we're down to 81. But I think there's a lot of factors go into that.
Sure.
I think we're actually in good shape. myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 95% funded is, it's higher than you need to be.
Sure, sure.
I mean, even here, under the worst-case scenario, we're still 60% funded.
We were contributing 100 grand a year or something to our reserves, and we'd cut it back to 50 or 25 or.
So we're reserving at a higher rate than about 4 or 5 years ago, and we reduced it a little bit, and we've kept it at the same rate for the last several years. This is our first increase since 2007. But this funding is for $50,000 per month versus $47,000 per month for 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions? Discussions? Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the 2017 reserve study, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So the second thing we looked at is at the preliminary budget, and there was a previous version of this budget that was distributed, and the previous version of the budget projected higher monthly increases, but thanks to Greg's help with the insurance, the monthly dues increase went down. So I don't think we need to take any action on this myself, because it's just going to go to the board for review when we have a date set for the budget workshop.
We have not set a date yet. We need to do it before the October board meeting, though.
Yeah, we got to set a date sometime.
We have not set a date.
I know we need to set a date.
Yes.
The only thing I might mention is that the committee started off with looking at a budget that was at $264 increase per month, and the committee recommended that we increase the legal expenses by about $10,000. So the starting point that you'll see at the budget workshop is a $3 increase. We reviewed the financial statements, and that was it. There is something on the agenda to talk about a proposed fee schedule, but I don't think we have that before us. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Martin. And next up is Architectural Review Committee. Sam.
The Architectural Review Committee has met twice since our last board meeting, and in those meetings, we approved the minutes, held hearings, reviewed and approved or disapproved. Well, we approved some house plans and room additions. Excuse me. We approved some common area leases. We dealt with the construction compliance deposit. We had some plans and stuff that a construction company requested a couple of years ago. They were supposed to return them, and they never have, and now they want their deposit back for those plans. And we're saying as soon as you produce the plans, we'll give you your deposit back. We've approved some swimming pools, some tree mitigations, and I have some common area leases I need to make some motions to approve. One good thing, I guess it's good, I don't know. We're down in our monthly reports and plans that we're reviewing. By this time last year, we had 498 activities. This year we're down to 369. So I don't know if it's the economy or people got all their stuff done. But we're slowing down a little bit, which is kind of good for staff, I suppose. Okay, I have a motion to approve common area lease for lot 89. Common area, approval of existing common area lease for lot 89, existing common area lease for lot 864, existing common area lease for lot 1899, and existing common area lease for 1993. These are all due to change of ownership, and all of the required fees have been paid through escrow.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve common area lease, changes of ownership for lots 89, 864, 1899, and 1993. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
And I have a common area lease. It's a reconfiguration of a existing common area lease for lot 1444. They want to change its configuration a little bit so they can have a ground level patio, fully fenced landscaped area, propane tank, swimming pool, and spa. So this meets all the requirements for that. So that's my motion, is to approve the reconfiguration of this common area lease.
I'll second that.
My understanding, if I'm reading the right one, is they basically have been approved for a common area lease for a pool. They never built it, and now they want to put in these backyard pavers and whatever else.
Yeah.
In lieu of a pool.
There's an easement through there, and so they could not do what they wanted to do.
Gotcha.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the reconfiguration of an existing lease for lot 1444. Any other comments, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
And that's my report, Mr. President.
What about the new lease agreement?
That was it. Oh, wait a minute. Did I?
Lot 167?
Oh, you know what? I went right over the top of that somehow, which is not uncommon.
Unless you don't want to.
Well,
I mean, it's up to you.
in my, I guess I gotta find it in my file here that aha. Sorry about that. And the recommendation is approval for the common area lease for 167. This is a 2 concrete patios, an air conditioning unit with enclosure, trash enclosure, and a walkway. This meets the transfer conditions under the civil codes. And we sent out 14 letters. 9 had no comment, which indicates concurrence. 3 lots had no objections, 2 did object, and it had to do with some drainages, and those issues were taken care of. And after reviewing those at our last meeting, the owner of this common area lease is responsible for now and all future, and that was part of the conditions, that the conditions for maintaining all of the drainage for this common area lease goes with the property.
But isn't that standard?
They have to renew it, and so it was put in there specifically for the drainage.
This has a sump pump.
No, they didn't need it after they reconfigured it. They took out the sump pump and forced main drain, and so
I saw it was crossed off, but
It's all gravity flow.
they were able to grade it in such a fashion and put in French drains and stuff that it took it away from where it was going. It's gonna be a lot better than it is.
So, and the neighbors have bought off on this new
Yes.
drainage plan?
Yeah, because the
Okay,
one
that
neighbor
was
that
my
objected
concern.
was right beside where the sump pump was.
Yeah,
was
and
going
the
to be.
big issue was if the sump pump electricity went off or something and it flooded, and there was all kinds of issue with the sump pump system, and so they were able to regrade it and put in the French drains and those kinds of things that took it away from the problem that they're having currently, so.
Okay, yeah, I would have sympathized seriously with the one neighbor that objected, because currently,
yeah.
currently the land drains right towards her garage, you know, their garage, so.
Yeah, we denied the initial application until they come up with this
Okay.
plan.
Okay, good, yeah, because I was gonna say, I wasn't gonna approve it with the drainage issues, but if those have
Right.
been resolved, I don't know, to our satisfaction, or Mark's satisfaction, he's nodding his head yes, so.
Did we have a second on your motion?
I don't think so. I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve a new common area lease agreement for lot 167. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
And that is the end of my report,
Thank you, Sam.
believe it or not.
No, I believe it.
Communications, anything?
Yeah, communications, we met on September 7th. We had a report from Ryan Wagaman on the status of Greenfield on the status of the fiber installation project. As of September 7th, nodes 3 and 6 were complete. Node 5 was anticipated to be complete by September 9th, and construction was still being completed in the areas of nodes 1 and 2. He anticipated underground construction to be finished within 3 weeks, and that splicing would take place after that, with 4 to 5 employees performing splicing work on hand to cover about 800 hours of work. As of the meeting, anyway, there were 742 homes that did not have fiber service, but the current plan was to finish the underground work and splicing before any more home installations were done. At that time, he had anticipated being able to offer the homeowners, the existing homeowners to call in to the rest of the community of those 742 homes in November. After the meeting, he published on RanchoMurieta.com indicating October 3rd is the date it will be available to all those in the community. So I think they're moving along quicker than they anticipated, at least from the committee meeting. We also had introduced Brandon Fuller, who's going to be taking Ryan's place here in a short time as the construction winds down, and we met Mr. Fuller. Like Mr. Fuller, he's a local guy. He's been on this project for about a year, kind of done a little bit of everything, and he's a local guy. He lives up in Volcano, so he'll be around. Seems like a real nice guy to work with, and hope the committee will have a good relationship with him. TV customers, we also got a report on that. There were 1,099 customers on basic TV, 182 on America's 200, 25 on America's 250, and 2 customers on America's Everything. Internet-only customers, 766 customers had the 20 meg service, 52 the 50 meg, and the 1900 meg. Internet and TV customers on the legacy system were 539 customers. And then phone customers, 76 have 200 minutes, 48 have 500 minutes, and 46 have unlimited minutes. And we had a little discussion about the phone service, and it seems like a lot of people don't know about it, but I think you ought to look into it. It's cheaper than AT&T. I've had it. It's been a good service. I know it's a digital, voice over internet protocol thing like Vonage or something like that, to give a rough comparison, but it works well. I haven't had a problem with it. So.
I have it, and it was about $23 a month cheaper than AT&T for less service. I mean, I got more service.
I pay half as much as I pay with AT&T, and I get better service, better coverage.
Mine's
I
less
get all
than that.
long distance. I got the unlimited. I mean, you get all long distance, in Canada and the United States.
I don't have the 500, but it was,
So,
I had 200 with AT&T, and it was 2.5 times.
I think
as
it works
much.
well, and I think we're on it here at RMA, aren't we? And we haven't had any problems here with, yeah. So, I mean, it's something for the community to consider and think about as well. Remember, that's an option out there along with TV and internet. So, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Bob. Next up, compliance. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. President. Compliance met August 1st. Just point out, when you look for the consent sign fines, quite a few for this month, for the 100, 200, and we even had a household reaching the $300 amount. When you look at the compliance report for the violation items summary report, again, the two biggest issues that we have under motor vehicle moving violations are speeding and the stop sign, or failure to stop, I should say. And Larry, just kind of following up on our conversation, you know, we have money set aside, and we'll get to it in the budget where we've got for cameras. In the study, reserve study, one of the trailers is supposed to be replaced anyways. So I get what you're saying. We're getting there. Security officer knows that our traffic plan, part of it is we're waiting to see from the developer, does anything change? Or what we have is what we have on the main thoroughfares. Example being Guadalupe being a big change, going to the park and those types of things. So he understands the concerns we had on the traffic plan that we have and how it flows. Now it's just a matter of putting it somewhere in the pecking order, either in the budget cycle or it's got to be done in 2017. So I don't know if that addresses your concerns, but that's kind of where it's at least at the compliance level, unless I'm missing something. Okay.
Just to reiterate for the whole group here again, my concerns are the things that are really safety issues. And,
right.
And to me, it's speeding and running stop line, moving violations. Right. No licensed driver. And I think those things are going to come back and bite us if we don't get a handle on controlling them.
Right.
I think they're going to continue to get worse if we don't start controlling them, and I think they're a major safety issue.
Tim, do you get a report on the violations that are given out, or warnings or whatever, if they're visitors or they're guests?
Yeah, basically what happens is it goes back to the lot owner itself.
Lot owner.
And so on one of them that's receiving a very substantial fine, it was 2 guests, but they were at a residence, so it goes back to the homeowner from that
that's right.
standpoint. And really, there are 3 things that compliance puts ahead of everything, and it really falls under safety or security, and that's the moving violations and then garage doors, just because it's a security type issue, that it kind of gets moved through the process, or the flexibility just isn't there. But I will tell you, and those of you that, or those of us that have had kids that have been stopped for not having a driver's license, CSD does address it. A lot of times they get it taken care of there. When a CSD officer does issue a citation, it is not the first time they've had any interaction with that individual. So part of it is they're trying to change the behavior at the lowest level, but when that's not effective, that's when it comes through compliance, and usually there's some type of dollar amount moving forward. So.
And the other question I had for you was, you know, the mechanical sign that we put out that shows what your speed limit is
Yes.
as you're coming by? I haven't seen that out on the Parkway for a while, and I just wondered if it's...
It works today. I got up to
Was it?
32. I was just testing it, Mr. President. So I just wanted to see if it worked. No, it gets moved around.
Yeah, okay.
It was on South Marietta for quite a while.
Have
And
you
again,
gotten some feedback on that? Because I mean, I personally feel like, when I see that, I look at my, it makes me look, it makes me adjust. And I
The
just wonder.
direction we would like to go is, there's a camera, and so when you hit a certain mile an hour, we'll have a glossy, 8x10 of you and the license plate, and we just move it through the system. At the stop signs, you have a video camera, and when you don't stop, we have a glossy video of you, and we just kind of move it through that. Again, we're trying to change the behavior of the folks, not make it a compliance where we're making income off of folks. Because again, those two areas, what you were talking about, Larry, the safety issues, it's speeding and stop signs. That's where majority of everything's at with
So
compliance.
can we have a violation wall built out here so we can start putting that 8x10 glossy on it?
I know as a homeowner, I've donated to that with my two favorite tax deductions.
So, I have a couple, well, one, I guess maybe a comment question. I was up in El Dorado Hills recently. I noticed the community had speed limit signs, and then they had, it looked like it was solar power, but then they had, the digital, what your speed was right above that. Have we ever thought about that in key areas like on the Parkway?
Yeah, and that's all part of, the funding was in, I think, 2014 budget, and it's still there. It's now just a matter of, instead of RMA purchasing them, working with CSD, and because it's a joint trailer, those types of things, and it's now just.
So rather than have a trailer we move around, we have some permanent.
Well, and that's some of the talk, where it's on a permanent post, or that post then moves different locations, and it's done that way.
And
Those
then-
are all the things that we're moving towards. It just, how it gets to the top of the order.
And then going back to what Larry said, I'm not convinced some anecdotal, comments about violations mean that there's actually an increase in moving violations, and the percentage of violations has changed over time or is more static. Maybe people perceive something, but it may not be,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
true for the whole year. So I don't know if there's any way the compliance,
Yeah,
other than moving violations, sort of tracks that. Or, for example, you talk about like the lowest level of, maybe CSD stops and doesn't cite somebody.
Right.
Do they have any way to monitor or track statistics?
I understand
Like
what
that.
you're asking, and I'm gonna say no, because that's at security officer's discretion. If he tells Bradley, I've told you before, turn the golf cart around, take it.
Yeah, I don't know what
And-
they
and
do.
so they'll do those things, and when that's not working, then that's when a citation's issued.
Sure.
But usually they're trying to take care of it at.
But I don't know
at
if
the
they
lowest
keep
level.
thinking, hey, I gave out 50 warnings this month.
No,
Something like
they don't
that.
have
I don't know if
anything
they
like
keep-
that.
I don't know. So I don't know how we measure whether there's an actual increase in moving violations within the community.
Other than you go by purely if a warning or a violation was sent out, then that's how we track. Surely I can, and I don't mean to call you Shirley, but I can have that for, 2016, 15, those types of things. Because I agree with you, it's only gonna get worse. Pick a number, 200 new homes, 800, it's only going to get worse. And so that's where the cameras is the thought process that we go, that it takes the video and it takes the pictures.
And then that sort of brings up the next question, since we're gonna have these and we have some retreats. We have a mechanism, if I recall right, to be able to.
With the other associations?
With the other
yes.
association on the
Yeah.
NBA, if we have to find them, it
Correct.
goes to their association and gets paid that way.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, it goes to that association and then they go to their member. We don't deal with. Right. Oh, that's working well. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
How about this letter?
Oh,
Women's Club and,
oh, I'm sorry, yes, I did a Sam Summers for a second. We had two folks come in front of compliance, and one was specifically for signage, who came here to the board. It was dealing with the blood source signage. They came, made their presentation. There was quite a bit of discussion on the compliance committee. They felt that the most consistent way to deal with it is to stay with the non-ARC rules, and recommend that the board deny the request to have a variance from the non-ARC rules. And then the other was,
So they're not going to get to do a sign then?
pardon me?
So they're not going to get to do a sign?
Well, what it is it's the day of, they put signs out, and the banner's still up that they have. Just on RMA property, it's pretty clear on what the non-ARC rules are. And again, even asked, can we change the color so it fits in? And they're not flexible on that. And I understand, as I told them, I understand the blood source is very important and they save lives. I believe that's part of their slogan. I don't know if it's any less or more important for any of the other fundraisers that we have going that go to people. So the committee just was going off of consistency.
So, what is it they wanted that you couldn't oblige?
They want a red sign on that day for four to 6 hours.
On RMA property?
Yes.
You need where those poles and the banners are?
No, it's just, they're like, for lack of term, election signs or real estate signs.
But election signs and real estate signs are legal.
I understand it. That's the size that.
Oh,
that
just the
they're
size,
in.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, we put the banner up the Monday before because it's their consistent language, so we do that for them.
And they could still put up, I mean, I don't know, maybe you could still put up a sign on private property, I guess, if they,
Well,
but
it would
if
have
it
to,
combined with.
it would have to fall under the coloring and all those other
yeah,
things.
So,
They
Or
wanted
they could
red or nothing.
yeah.
I've had a discussion with the lady and
Well,
it's,
I thought they wanted some directional signs also, no? They just want announcement signs?
Yeah.
they want an announcement sign just, and it's like, if we do it for one, we do it for all. And it's gonna create a,
And compliance was just going after consistency, that's all.
So, kind of a diversion a little bit.
Yeah.
The political signs
Right?
that are currently scattered out through the area
they're
are,
on private property.
but they're supposed to be within 10 feet of the resident, or within the property, 10 feet of the property. And in townhouse areas, they're exceeding that.
Then it would go back to, it's attention reminder. With all the political signs going up for different elections in the community, just a reminder of the rules. Signs can only be on private property except for owners of townhouses, circle lots, cottage lots, single-family resident lots, parentheses, the Kims or McKim lots, who may place political signs in the common area within 10 feet of their dwelling structure.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of noncompliance in the
right,
community.
and I would assume, and I know how we spell that the compliance officer, like he's done with other signs that don't fall into it, simply removes them, we stack them here, and the residents can come get them and be explained what the process is, so.
Is this a once a year thing, or twice a year, or 3 times a year?
The election signs?
No,
The blood's 3 or 4
blood
times
thing.
a year,
It's,
every 3 months, every 4 months.
I think it's 4 times a year.
Most.
As they say, it's a total of 24 hours out of 365 days. And again, if all compliance was just purely looking at consistency. I'm not saying they're any less more important than any of the other folks that want to have signage different than the next person.
I have a hard time not being flexible on something like this.
Well, I think we sent it back to compliance for their input. We got their input. They're not back here asking for it right now. So I guess if they come back before the board, we'll know what compliance thinks.
The agenda references board action. There's no board action required. Okay.
So, but I don't see anybody asking for it, so I don't think we have to vote.
Well, I know the lady with the blood drive talked to me, and she says she was told she'd be getting a letter from the compliance committee, I think probably either approving it or denying it.
Right.
And I think if they got a denial letter, they wanted to be able to appeal it to the board.
Yeah, and there's a process for that, I
Right.
assume.
Okay.
Oh, so they could come back. Okay.
And then would you be flexible, Mr. Inflexible?
No, I would be flexible.
Okay, I appreciate that. The next issue is a vendor's request for access into Rancho Murieta. In short, it's a random sampling. They're only given addresses. Out of the 70-some odd addresses, only 50% responded. They want follow-up access to those other 50%. When you talk about whether the blood drive's a good idea or not, and we should be flexible, this one deals with teen suicides, elderly overdoses, all these other things, so this is probably more of an impact or as much as the blood drive. Again, the compliance committee simply just went with consistency. We don't have solicitors. It's not the actual Department of Health and Human Services, just a contractor. So their recommendation was to stay with the current non-ARC rules. So
I agree with the compliance committee on this.
I'm batting 50%. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved me from buying a no soliciting sign.
There you go. And this
Well, we-
partly goes to this young gentleman's idea on the yogurt, and that's where we get, these are the rules, so.
Well, and that's,
minute. They're gonna give you $30 in cash if you.
well, they're not giving it to me, they're giving it to those people. So I don't think an action has to be taken on this. We'll just send a letter to the vendor and move on. After doing my Sam Summers invitation, I'm done.
Thank you, Tim. Anything from Governor
Took you long
Doc?
enough.
Nothing.
Maintenance Committee.
Nothing. Maintenance committee did not meet this month.
Wow, got lucky there.
So they'll make
He
up
had
for
his
it with
time, he
their
had his
subcommittee.
30 minutes anyway.
Wait till you get to Midge Fly.
Okay, midge flies.
5 minutes.
I moved the midge flies under the maintenance committee.
Midge Flies, even though there's only one meeting.
I thought you said
noted-
there's one
One
midge.
midge fly, we just can't catch
Yeah,
them.
there's only one midge
We
fly.
just can't catch them.
Even though there's only one meeting noted in your packet, we actually met twice because we met Monday of this week. And I'm going to summarize both of those into one discussion. We approved the previous minutes. And basically, we're still negotiating with CSD to make sure that they use granular with their funding. And now we're finding that there's a question about how much funding they have. We were led to believe all along they had 5,000. And I was trying to get them to increase that to 8. So we'll see how this goes. But
So, wait, so are they now claiming they don't even have the 5,000? Is that the dispute?
the 5,000, they operate under a fiscal year, July 1st to
Sure, yeah.
to August 30 or to June 30th. And every time I ask for to discuss the funding for 16/17 fiscal year, they refer only to the 16 year and say that all their funding is used up. So it's a matter of communication in a lot of cases about what they really have. There was also, the granular was purchased in late June with some extra funds that they found, $3,700. And now they're trying to ascertain whether that actually got purchased in that before June 30th. If it didn't, then that 3,700 came out of the 5,000 they should have for this fiscal year. So, I mean, I've referred to this in other capacities, but there's a lot of voodoo science with their financing over there, I think. Anyway, beyond that, we're still working we've got them to agree to use granular instead of the liquid for future applications. And it's just a matter of how much money we can get them to obligate and how many times we can spray. the granular, the one-time granular was extremely successful. In fact, it's the liquid was only lasting about 3 to 4 weeks. The granular lasted 6 to 8 weeks. And it also affected the ability of the larvae to develop into adults. So for a longer period of time, in fact, it's still affecting it, and it was done 3 months ago. And what they're
Now they're crawling over here?
yeah, they're mutant midge flies. So we have mutant midges now.
But they're bigger, we can catch them.
I sense a movie coming out of this. The mutant mince flies.
They're all teenagers.
They're real fuzzy and brown instead of black. So anyway, that being said, we're really kind of focused on what our future is, and I was hoping that I could tell you today that we were not going to meet for the next 6 months, but one of our members insisted on meeting one more time, so we will have one more midge-fly meeting in October, and then we'll probably adjourn for till March or April of next year. And so the things that we're kind of waiting on are kind of some response from Rod about the pumps and when he plans on installing them, and the last I heard was spring. He'll have them in by spring, and that's fine with our scheduling. We've also been talking about trying to quantify the success of the granular. So we now have a group of people that have volunteered to actually go all throughout Rancho Murieta and monitor midge flies on a weekly basis. And there's a subjective way that they have figured out to do that, and I didn't want to be part of that operation. I thought it was kind of worthless, so I kind of let somebody else run that one. And I personally have enough water quality equipment that I can do some fairly sophisticated water quality analysis of all lakes, and I'm going to start that process pretty shortly.
Could you start at Lost Lake on the south? And just kind of work your way?
Yeah, I can tell you.
Just a thought. We haven't really done much there.
You said water, not stuff.
Oh.
I can summarize the water quality there in one word: contaminated. And I do have a solution for that lake. Mike Martell has been insistent on the midge-fly committee dealing with that, so I'm going to address that in the CSD board.
Perfect.
1,000 gallons of bleach will work just fine.
I think it would be great as a basketball court.
We had a dog park over there.
Just fill it in and concrete it over.
It looks like you could walk right across it right now.
Yeah, I know. So basically, that is kind of an overview of everything.
I do have one question.
Sure.
On the minutes. I know. Rod was going to follow up with CSD pumps to see about the two. I thought we were not doing that and we were purchasing, but we're back to trying to get CSD pumps.
There was a discussion of potentially using them for other things like Guadalupe Lake or Lost Lake. And either that or you're looking at a really, really old minutes.
Well, I'm looking for the minutes of August 22nd.
Yeah, because I'm going off of, we're short on the acre feet coverage, and so you're going to
Oh,
CSD.
right, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, that discussion was brought up. The idea was that we approved 5 pumps, which, based on the volume of water those pumps are gonna produce or move, we really need more like 7 or 8. And so the discussion was, can we use the ones that they have currently that we decided we weren't gonna use before, the CSD's pumps?
Well, they were free, but now they're not.
Well, you're right, that's one problem. The other problem is that they would have to be rewired
Reconverted.
since they're
Right.
wrong voltage. They would also have to be completely reconfigured because they're not aeration pumps. So that's one of the reasons we moved to a new pump, was because we could actually
Right.
put new pumps in cheaper than we could retrofit the old ones. So even though that was one of the things that was an agenda item, it was pretty much shut off by Rod and I pretty quickly.
Okay.
So we're moving, bottom line, we're moving forward with the 5 pumps that we purchased? Is that-
Rod has ordered them. Do you have them in yet? No. Okay. That is my report.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you for your work on that, the midge fly. I think it's made a difference. Okay, Tim, back to you. Nominating committee?
We had a nominating committee meeting on September 14th. So we have a couple of items to take care of. One of them will be the slate of candidates. There are two open positions for the board this year. These positions are currently held by none other than the board president himself, Jim Moore, and then the other guy, Martin Pohl. The nominating committee presents a slate of candidates for nomination to the board of directors as follows. Alexander Bauer, I believe is how you pronounce the name. There's Robert Brown, Greg Mason, and a Jeff Moorhead. I can read, there's Rob. For some reason, I thought it was Bobby.
I move in second, and we're out of here.
Whoever shows up, right?
I'm not going to read the state bylaws, but basically, we're obligated to take them. They'll be on the ballot for the membership for the November 2016 annual meeting. Next item. This is to the Board of Directors from the Assistant General Manager. Recommendation. It is recommended that the Board of Directors establish October 3rd as the date of record for the annual members meeting. Basically, the background on this, the Board of Directors is required to establish date of record for annual members meeting to determine voter eligibility. Basically, what that's saying is, are your dues paid up? And I don't know if that means fines either from ARC or compliance as well. So,
Yeah, I think that means.
okay.
that
So,
can't be doing something.
do we need to take action on that? Yes. So my recommendation is we set October 3rd as the date of record for the annual members meeting.
I'll treat that as a motion and second it.
Thank you.
Been moved and seconded to establish October 3rd as the date of record for the members' meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That was for date of record, yes. Okay. Now the actual annual members meeting, it is recommended the Board of Directors designate Thursday, November 17th as the date of the annual members meeting. Ballot counting shall begin at 1 p.m., meeting at 7 p.m. RMA building. Bylaws state that the annual members meeting shall be called in November of each year. Meeting is typically scheduled third Thursday in November, which is the 17th. So that's my recommendation.
Second?
Those in favor?
Been moved and seconded to designate Thursday, October 17th as the date of the annual members meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Sorry, Mr. President.
That's all right.
Candidates
Put the
night,
date.
and I don't know if we have an update on this.
We don't, not yet.
Okay. Staff is in the process of contacting the candidates to see what their availability is. We've given 2 dates in October for what is normally candidates night. If you remember, Mr. President, I think your last term, we didn't have it because you were running against unopposed, but because we have 4 members for 2 spots, obviously we're going to have it. So to the Board of Directors, this is from Dick Silva. He's the Inspector of Elections. It's actually kind of a thankless job. Due to my dyslexia, they don't let me count. But it is recommended that the Board of Directors approve the following residents for the Tally Committee. Tom Carling, Ron DeVinci, Frank and Mary Lou Dininger, Evelyn Manass, Ken Poole, might have to keep an eye on that guy, Bob Pritchard, Mary Silvas, and Dave Witt. So that's my recommendation.
And that is your motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint the aforementioned individuals to the tally committee. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Parks, anything on parks?
No, we're just moving forward with the greens. We should have those numbers, I'm hoping, by next board meeting.
Okay, good. We've been talking about the Greens Park since before I got here, I think.
Well, we're going to talk about it after you leave, Mr. President. Strong work on your leadership, sir.
Recreation.
Oh, yes, I have a couple of items.
Friday, October 28th, we have bingo starting at 6 o'clock. No charge for that, just bring a appetizer or a dessert. On December 7th, we have our bus trip to San Francisco for shopping, going to the plays, whatever you want to do. We have 4 buses reserved, and I think 1 full already.
Denise, with that, let's talk about the change in time zone with the bus trip.
I was getting there.
Okay.
The cost is $40. It leaves Murieta at 9 a.m. in the morning, and we'll arrive back here at 9:30 in the evening. We had a request from, quite a few of the people that went that they wanted to do it an hour later to avoid some traffic, and so that gives them a little more time to have dinner in San Francisco. So we were able to accomplish that.
I believe that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. And good report, by the way.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Our next Board of Directors meeting will be Tuesday, October 18th, 6:30 right here. And for all of those who hung in there, thank you. We'll see you next month. We are adjourned.
Thank God.
Where do I drop my 96 pack of Kirkland lights off to you? For Blues and Brews, the donation?